Bird builds a nest in a stranger's garden, and the reaction is unforgettable. In the quaint town of Willow Creek, where the streets were lined with blooming cherry blossom trees and the air was filled with the sweet scent of spring, lived a 10-year-old girl named Lily. With her wild curls and bright green eyes, she was a bundle of energy, always exploring the world around her. Lily had a heart full of dreams and a spirit that craved adventure. But she also carried the weight of a recent loss. Her beloved grandmother, who had been her confidante and best friend, had passed away just a few months prior. The absence of her grandmother left a void in Lily's life, one that she struggled to fill. Lily often found solace in her grandmother's garden, a vibrant patch of land filled with colorful flowers, buzzing bees, and fluttering butterflies. It was a magical place where her grandmother had taught her the names of every plant and flower, where they had shared stories and laughter. Now, the garden felt different. Quieter, emptier. Lily would sit on the old wooden swing, her feet barely touching the ground, and imagine her grandmother's voice guiding her through the seasons. One sunny afternoon, as Lily sat in the garden, she noticed a flurry of movement in the nearby bushes. Curiosity piqued, she crept closer, her heart racing with excitement. To her surprise, she discovered a small, scruffy bird struggling to gather twigs and leaves. The bird, a sparrow with ruffled feathers and a determined glint in its eye, seemed to be building a nest. Lily watched in awe as the little creature flitted from branch to branch, its tiny beak clutching bits of material. "Hey there, little one," Lily whispered, crouching down to get a better look. "What are you up to?" The sparrow paused, tilting its head as if it understood her. In that moment, Lily felt an unexpected connection to the bird. It was as if they were both searching for something, a place to belong, a sense of home. As days turned into weeks, the sparrow returned to the garden, tirelessly working on its nest. Lily named the bird Pip, and she began to leave bits of string and soft leaves for Pip to use. Each time she did, Pip would chirp happily, as if thanking her for the gifts. This small act of kindness brought a spark of joy back into Lily's life. A reminder that even in the midst of sorrow, there was beauty to be found. However, not everyone in Willow Creek shared Lily's affection for the little bird. Mr. Thompson, the grumpy old man who lived next door, had a reputation for being irritable and unfriendly. He often complained about the noise of the birds and the mess they made in his yard. One afternoon, as Lily watched Pip from her swing, she noticed Mr. Thompson glaring at her from his porch, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. "Why don't you keep that bird away from my garden?" he shouted, his voice harsh and unforgiving. "It's a nuisance." Lily's heart sank. She had hoped that Mr. Thompson would understand her bond with Pip. But instead, he seemed determined to drive the little bird away. "But Pip is just trying to build a home," she replied, her voice trembling. "He's not hurting anyone." "Birds don't belong in gardens," Mr. Thompson retorted, his tone dismissive. "They make a mess and ruin everything." Lily felt a surge of anger and sadness. How could someone be so unkind? She wanted to defend Pip, to explain how important the little bird had become to her. But she knew that arguing with Mr. Thompson would only make things worse. Instead, she decided to focus on helping Pip, determined to protect her feathered friend. As the days passed, Lily noticed that Pip was becoming more comfortable in the garden. The nest was taking shape, a cozy little structure nestled among the branches of a flowering dogwood tree. Lily spent hours watching Pip, her heart swelling with pride as the bird worked tirelessly. She felt a sense of companionship with Pip, a bond that transcended words. But one fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Willow Creek, disaster struck. A fierce storm rolled in, dark clouds swirling ominously overhead. Lily rushed to the garden, her heart pounding with fear for Pip. The wind howled and rain poured down in sheets, threatening to wash away everything in its path. "Pip, where are you?" Lily called, her voice barely audible over the storm. She searched frantically, her heart racing as she feared for her little friend's safety. Just as she was about to give up hope, she spotted Pip clinging to a branch, desperately trying to shield the nest from the rain. In that moment, Lily knew she had to act. She dashed into the house, grabbing an old umbrella and a large cardboard box. With determination in her heart, she returned to the garden, shielding herself from the rain as best as she could. "I won't let anything happen to you, Pip," she shouted over the roar of the storm. As she approached the tree, she realized that the nest was in danger of being swept away. With trembling hands, she carefully lifted the box and positioned it beneath the nest, hoping to provide some shelter. Pip chirped anxiously, flapping its wings as if urging her to hurry. Just then, a powerful gust of wind knocked Lily off balance, sending her tumbling to the ground. The umbrella flew from her grasp, and she felt a surge of panic. But as she looked up, she saw Pip darting toward her, landing on her shoulder, as if to say, "I'm here. We'll get through this together." With renewed strength, Lily stood up, clutching the box tightly. She managed to secure the nest inside, shielding it from the rain. As the storm raged on, she felt a sense of bravery swell within her. She was fighting for something she loved, and in that moment, she realized that she was not just protecting Pip. She was also reclaiming her own sense of hope. As the storm finally began to subside, Lily looked around the garden. Now a muddy mess but still standing strong. She felt a sense of accomplishment wash over her. Pip chirped happily, fluttering around her in a joyful dance. They had survived the storm together, and in doing so, they had forged an unbreakable bond. But the challenges were far from over. The next day, as the sun shone brightly and the garden began to dry, Lily noticed Mr. Thompson standing at the edge of his yard, watching her with a furrowed brow. She could sense his disapproval, but she also felt a flicker of determination. She would not let anyone take Pip away from her. Not now, not ever. The days following the storm were filled with a renewed sense of purpose for Lily. The garden, once a place of quiet reflection, had transformed into a vibrant sanctuary, alive with the sounds of chirping birds and buzzing bees. Pip had successfully weathered the storm, and the nest was now a cozy home for the little sparrow. Each morning, Lily would rush outside, eager to see Pip and check on the progress of the nest. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Lily noticed that Pip was no longer just gathering twigs and leaves. The nest was now lined with soft feathers and bits of moss, creating a warm and inviting space. It was clear that Pip was preparing for something special. Lily's heart swelled with excitement at the thought of baby birds. She imagined tiny, fluffy chicks peeking out from the nest, their beaks open wide, waiting for their mother to feed them. One afternoon, while Lily was tending to her grandmother's flowers, she heard a commotion coming from the direction of Pip's nest. She looked up to see Pip flapping its wings frantically, chirping loudly. Alarmed, Lily rushed over to the tree, her heart racing. As she approached, she saw a large cat lurking nearby, its eyes fixed on the nest. "Hey, get away from there!" Lily shouted, her voice filled with urgency. The cat, startled by her sudden appearance, turned and bolted away, disappearing into the underbrush. Lily breathed a sigh of relief, but her heart was still pounding. She knew that Pip and her future chicks were in danger, and she had to do something to protect them. Determined to keep Pip safe, Lily decided to build a protective barrier around the tree. She gathered old wooden pallets and some chicken wire from her father's shed, her mind racing with ideas. With each nail she hammered and each piece of wire she secured, she felt a sense of empowerment. This was her garden, and she would do everything in her power to protect it. As she worked, her younger brother, Max, wandered over, his curiosity piqued. "What are you doing, Lily?" he asked, tilting his head to get a better look at the makeshift barrier. "I'm building a fort for Pip," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "There's a cat that wants to get to the nest, and I can't let that happen." Max's face lit up with excitement. "Can I help?" he asked, eager to join in on the adventure. "Of course," Lily replied, grateful for the extra hands. Together, they worked diligently, laughing and chatting as they constructed the barrier. Max was surprisingly adept at hammering nails, and soon they had created a sturdy enclosure around the tree. As they stepped back to admire their handiwork, Lily felt a sense of pride wash over her. "Now Pip will be safe," she said, smiling at her brother. "We did it together." But as the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the garden, Lily couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled in her stomach. She knew that Mr. Thompson would not be pleased with her efforts. He had already made it clear that he didn't want birds in his garden, and she feared he would see her protective barrier as an eyesore. The next morning, as Lily was watering the flowers, she spotted Mr. Thompson standing at the edge of his yard, his arms crossed and his expression stern. "What's that ridiculous thing you've built?" he called out, his voice dripping with disdain. "It's a barrier to protect Pip's nest," Lily replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "There's a cat that wants to get in, and I can't let that happen." Mr. Thompson scoffed. "Birds are a nuisance, and you're just making things worse. You should let nature take its course." Lily felt a surge of frustration. "But Pip is my friend. I can't just let something happen to her." "Friend? It's just a bird, Lily. You're wasting your time," he retorted, shaking his head. "You should be focusing on more important things." Lily's heart sank. She wanted to argue, to make him understand how much Pip meant to her, but she knew it would only lead to more conflict. Instead, she took a deep breath and turned away, determined not to let his words dampen her spirits. As the days passed, Lily continued to care for Pip and the nest, her bond with the little bird growing stronger. She spent hours in the garden, reading books and talking to Pip, sharing her thoughts and dreams. In return, Pip would chirp and flutter around her, as if listening intently. One afternoon, while Lily was sitting on the swing, she noticed Pip behaving strangely. The little bird was hopping around the nest, chirping excitedly and flapping its wings. Lily's heart raced with anticipation. Could it be? Were the eggs finally hatching? She rushed over to the tree, her eyes wide with wonder. As she peered into the nest, she gasped. There, nestled among the soft feathers, were 3 tiny, fluffy chicks, their beaks wide open, chirping for food. "Oh my goodness, Pip, you did it!" Lily exclaimed, her voice filled with joy. Pip flitted around the nest, feeding the chicks with tiny morsels of food. Lily watched in awe, her heart swelling with happiness. This was a moment she would never forget, the miracle of life unfolding right before her eyes. But as the days went by, the challenges continued to mount. The barrier she had built was holding strong, but Lily knew that it wouldn't be long before Mr. Thompson would take notice of the growing family in her garden. She could already imagine him storming over, demanding that she remove the nest and the barrier. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Lily sat on the porch with Max, watching the stars begin to twinkle. "Do you think Mr. Thompson will really try to get rid of Pip and her babies?" Max asked, his voice filled with concern. I don't know, Lily replied, her brow furrowed in thought. But I can't let that happen. Pip needs us. Max nodded, his expression serious. We should come up with a plan. Maybe we can talk to Mom and Dad about it. Lily smiled at her brother, grateful for his support. That's a great idea. We can show them how important Pip is to us. The next day, they gathered their parents in the living room, excited to share their plans. Mom, Dad, we need to talk about Pip, Lily began, her voice earnest. She built a nest in our garden, and now she has babies. But Mr. Thompson wants to get rid of them. Their parents exchanged glances, their expressions thoughtful. What do you mean he wants to get rid of them? Their mother asked, concern creeping into her voice. He thinks birds are a nuisance, and he doesn't want them in his yard, Max chimed in. But Pip is our friend. We can't let anything happen to her or her babies. Their father leaned back in his chair, considering their words. I understand how much you care about that little bird. But we have to be respectful of Mr. Thompson's feelings too. Maybe we can find a compromise. Lily felt a flicker of hope. What if we invite Mr. Thompson over to see the nest? Maybe if he sees how special Pip is, he'll change his mind. Her parents exchanged another glance, and their mother nodded. That could work. Let's give it a try. With a plan in place, Lily and Max set out to prepare for Mr. Thompson's visit. They cleaned up the garden, making sure everything looked perfect. Lily even picked a bouquet of flowers to present to him, hoping to soften his heart. The next day, they knocked on Mr. Thompson's door, their hearts pounding with nervous anticipation. When he opened the door, his expression was one of surprise. What do you want? He grumbled, eyeing them suspiciously. Mr. Thompson, we wanted to invite you to see something special in our garden, Lily said, her voice steady despite her nerves. It's about Pip and her babies. He hesitated, glancing back at his house as if considering whether to turn them away. But something in Lily's earnest gaze seemed to soften his demeanor. Fine. I'll take a look, he grumbled, stepping outside. As they walked to the garden, Lily felt a mix of excitement and fear. Would Mr. Thompson really understand? Would he see the beauty in Pip's nest and the bond they had formed? When they reached the tree, Lily pointed to the nest, her heart racing. Look, Mr. Thompson. Pip has 3 babies. They're so cute. Mr. Thompson squinted up at the nest, his expression unreadable. For a moment, there was silence as he took in the sight. Then, to Lily's surprise, he let out a low whistle. I'll be damned. I didn't know birds could be so interesting. Lily's heart soared. Isn't it amazing? Pip has worked so hard to take care of them. We've been protecting the nest from cats and other dangers. Mr. Thompson crossed his arms, his brow furrowed in thought. I suppose I never really thought about it that way. I just see the mess they make. Lily took a deep breath, feeling a surge of courage. But they're part of nature, Mr. Thompson. They have their own lives and families, just like us. I think it's important to let them be. He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of understanding in his eyes. You're a brave little girl, you know that, he said, his voice softer than before. Maybe I've been too harsh. Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her. So, you won't try to get rid of Pip and her babies? Mr. Thompson sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I suppose I can tolerate them for a while. Just keep that mess out of my yard, all right? Lily beamed, her heart swelling with joy. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I promise we'll take care of everything. As he turned to leave, she called out, and if you ever want to come and see them again, you're always welcome. Mr. Thompson paused, glancing back at her with a hint of a smile. Maybe I will, kid. Maybe I will. As he walked away, Lily felt a sense of triumph. They had not only protected Pip and her babies but had also opened a door to understanding and compassion. That evening, as the sun set and the stars began to twinkle, Lily sat in the garden, watching Pip feed her chicks. Max joined her, a wide grin on his face. "You did it, Lily. You really changed his mind." "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied, nudging him playfully. "We make a great team." As they sat together, the sounds of chirping filled the air, and Lily felt a warmth in her heart. She had faced her fears, stood up for what she believed in, and forged a bond not just with Pip, but with her brother and even Mr. Thompson. But as the days turned into weeks, the challenges were far from over. The chicks were growing quickly, and soon they would be ready to leave the nest. Lily knew that this was a pivotal moment, one that would test the strength of her bond with Pip and the lessons she had learned about bravery and companionship. As the days turned into weeks, the little chicks in Pip's nest grew stronger and more adventurous. Their feathers began to fluff out, and their chirps became louder, filling the garden with a symphony of life. Lily spent every moment she could in the garden, watching the chicks as they flapped their tiny wings and practiced their first attempts at flight. Each day brought new excitement, but it also brought a sense of impending change that made Lily's heart ache. One sunny afternoon, as Lily sat on the swing, she noticed Pip perched on a nearby branch, watching her chicks with a keen eye. The little birds were hopping around the nest, their wings fluttering in anticipation. Lily could sense that the time for them to leave the nest was drawing near. She felt a mix of joy and sadness. She had grown so attached to Pip and her family, and the thought of them flying away filled her with both pride and a sense of loss. "Soon, you'll be flying free, won't you?" Lily whispered to the chicks, her voice soft and filled with emotion. "I'll miss you all so much." Just then, Max came running into the garden, his face flushed with excitement. "Lily, you won't believe what I just saw," he exclaimed, breathless. "Mr. Thompson is out in his yard, and he has a big net." Lily's heart dropped. "A net? What does he want with a net?" "I don't know, but it looks like he's trying to catch something," Max replied, his eyes wide with concern. Without thinking, Lily jumped off the swing and raced toward the fence that separated their yard from Mr. Thompson's. "We have to stop him," she shouted, her heart pounding in her chest. "He can't catch Pip or her babies." As they reached the fence, they could see Mr. Thompson crouched low, peering through the bushes with the net in hand. He seemed focused, his brow furrowed in concentration. "What is he doing?" Max whispered, his voice trembling. "I don't know, but we can't let him catch them," Lily replied, determination flooding her veins. "We have to distract him." Lily quickly scanned the garden for something they could use. Her eyes landed on a pile of old pots and garden tools. "I have an idea," she said, grabbing a small pot and a stick. "We'll make some noise to get his attention." Max nodded, his face set with resolve. Together, they began banging the pot with the stick, creating a loud clanging sound that echoed through the garden. "Hey, Mr. Thompson," Lily shouted, her voice ringing with urgency. "What are you doing over there?" Mr. Thompson looked up, startled by the noise. "What are you kids doing?" he barked, his irritation evident. "Can't you see I'm busy?" "Busy doing what?" Lily pressed, stepping closer to the fence. "You're not trying to catch Pip, are you?" Mr. Thompson's expression shifted, and for a moment, he looked guilty. "I'm just trying to keep the birds out of my garden," he muttered, lowering the net slightly. "But Pip and her babies are part of nature," Lily exclaimed, her heart racing. "You can't just catch them because they're making a mess. They have a right to be here." Mr. Thompson hesitated, his grip on the net loosening. "They're a nuisance, Lily. They make noise and leave droppings everywhere, he replied, his voice defensive. But they're also beautiful and important, Lily argued, her voice rising with passion. Pip has worked so hard to raise her chicks. You can't take them away just because they're inconvenient. Max chimed in. Yeah. We built a barrier to protect them. You said you'd let them stay. Mr. Thompson's expression softened slightly, but he still looked conflicted. I didn't think it would come to this, he said, glancing back at the nest. I just wanted some peace and quiet. Lily took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. What if we could find a way for you to have peace and still let Pip and her babies stay? We can clean up the mess and keep the noise down. Just give them a chance. For a moment, there was silence as Mr. Thompson considered her words. Lily could see the internal struggle on his face, and she felt a flicker of hope. Please, Mr. Thompson, she pleaded. They're not just birds to me. They're my friends. I promise we'll take care of everything. Finally, Mr. Thompson sighed, lowering the net completely. Fine, he said, his voice begrudging. But if they cause any more trouble, I'm not going to hesitate to take action. Lily's heart soared with relief. Thank you. You won't regret it, she exclaimed, her voice filled with gratitude. As Mr. Thompson walked away, Lily turned to Max, her eyes shining with excitement. We did it. We saved Pip and her babies. But just as they were celebrating, a loud commotion erupted from the nest. Pip was chirping frantically, and the chicks were flapping their wings wildly. Lily's heart raced as she realized what was happening. They're ready to fly, she shouted, her voice filled with awe. The chicks hopped to the edge of the nest, their tiny bodies trembling with anticipation. Lily and Max watched in breathless silence, their hearts pounding in unison. Pip fluttered around them, encouraging them to take the leap. Come on, little ones. You can do it. Lily cheered, her voice filled with encouragement. One by one, the chicks took their first tentative flights, soaring into the air with a mix of clumsiness and grace. Lily clapped her hands in delight, her heart swelling with pride. Look at them go! They're flying. But just as the last chick took off, a shadow loomed overhead. Lily's heart dropped as she looked up to see a hawk circling above. Its sharp eyes locked onto the tiny birds. No, Pip, get them back, she cried, panic rising in her chest. Pip chirped loudly, darting toward the chicks, but the hawk swooped down. Its wings spread wide. Lily felt a surge of fear as she realized the danger they were in. We have to do something, she shouted, her voice trembling. Without thinking, Lily grabbed a nearby stick and waved it in the air, shouting at the hawk. Go away! Leave them alone, she yelled, her heart racing. Max joined her, throwing small stones in the direction of the hawk, desperate to scare it off. The hawk hesitated, momentarily distracted by the commotion. Pip flew in front of the chicks, flapping her wings and chirping fiercely, trying to protect her young. Lily felt a surge of admiration for the little bird's bravery. You can do it, Pip. Don't let it take them, she shouted, her voice filled with urgency. Just then, the hawk made a dive toward the nest, its talons outstretched. Lily's heart raced as she lunged forward, waving the stick wildly. Get away! She screamed, her voice echoing through the garden. In that moment, everything seemed to slow down. The hawk veered off course, startled by Lily's sudden movement. Pip seized the opportunity, leading her chicks away from the danger, guiding them toward the safety of the nearby bushes. Lily and Max watched in breathless silence as Pip and her chicks disappeared into the underbrush, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. Did we scare it away? Max asked, his voice shaky. I think so, Lily replied, her breath coming in quick gasps. But we have to make sure they're safe. They rushed toward the bushes, their hearts racing with worry. As they reached the edge of the garden, they spotted Pip perched on a low branch. Her chicks nestled close to her. They were safe, but the danger had not passed. The hawk was still circling overhead, searching for its next meal. "We need to protect them," Lily said, her voice filled with determination. "We can't let that hawk get to them." Max nodded, his expression serious. "What do we do?" Lily thought quickly, her mind racing. "We need to create a distraction. If we can lure the hawk away, Pip and her babies can find a safer place to hide." They quickly gathered more sticks and stones, preparing to make as much noise as possible. "On the count of 3, we'll throw everything we have," Lily said, her heart pounding with adrenaline. 1, 2, 3. They hurled the sticks and stones into the air, shouting and waving their arms. The hawk, startled by the sudden commotion, hesitated, its sharp eyes darting toward the noise. "Over here!" Lily yelled, her voice ringing with urgency. The hawk swooped down, drawn to the distraction. "Now, Pip, go!" Lily shouted, her heart racing as she watched Pip lead her chicks deeper into the bushes. With a final, desperate flap of its wings, the hawk veered away from the noise, chasing after the distraction Lily and Max had created. They watched in breathless silence as Pip and her chicks disappeared into the safety of the dense foliage. As the hawk flew off into the distance, Lily and Max collapsed onto the grass, their hearts still racing. "Did we do it?" Max asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "I think we did," Lily replied, her voice trembling with emotion. "We saved them." Tears of relief filled her eyes as she realized the magnitude of what they had just accomplished. They had faced danger head-on, and together, they had protected Pip and her family. In that moment, Lily felt a deep sense of connection to the little bird and her chicks. A bond forged through bravery and love. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the garden, Lily and Max sat in silence, their hearts still racing. They had faced their fears, stood up for what they believed in, and fought for the lives of those they loved. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Lily and Max sat in the garden, their hearts still racing from the adrenaline of the day. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, and the sounds of chirping crickets began to fill the evening silence. They had faced a formidable challenge, and now, as they caught their breath, a sense of calm washed over them. "Do you think Pip and her babies are okay?" Max asked, glancing toward the bushes where they had last seen the little family. "I hope so," Lily replied, her voice soft. "Pip is so brave. She'll keep them safe." Just then, they heard a soft chirping sound coming from the bushes. Lily's heart leaped with joy. "Listen! I think that's them," she exclaimed, jumping to her feet. They both rushed toward the sound, their hearts pounding with anticipation. As they approached the bushes, they spotted Pip perched on a low branch. Her chicks nestled close to her. The little birds were fluffing their feathers, chirping happily as if celebrating their newfound freedom. Relief flooded over Lily as she watched Pip feed her chicks, their tiny beaks opening wide for food. "They made it!" Max shouted, his face lighting up with excitement. "They're safe." Lily felt tears of joy welling in her eyes. "We did it, Max. We really did it." She hugged her brother tightly, overwhelmed with emotion. They had fought against the odds to protect Pip and her family, and now they were safe. As the evening wore on, Lily and Max decided to set up a small campfire in the garden. They gathered sticks and twigs, lighting a fire that crackled and popped, casting a warm glow around them. They roasted marshmallows, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the night. "Do you think Mr. Thompson will really leave Pip alone now?" Max asked, poking at the fire with a stick. I hope so, Lily replied, her expression thoughtful. I think he's starting to understand how important they are. Maybe he'll even come to appreciate them. Just then, they heard footsteps approaching. Turning, they saw Mr. Thompson walking toward them, his expression serious but not unfriendly. What are you kids doing out here? He asked, crossing his arms. We're celebrating, Lily replied, her voice bright. Pip and her babies are safe now. Mr. Thompson raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. Safe from what? Lily took a deep breath, feeling a surge of confidence. From the hawk. We scared it away, and now they're all okay. We even built a barrier to protect them. Mr. Thompson looked at the makeshift barrier, then back at the fire. I see, he said slowly. You really care about that little bird, don't you? Lily nodded, her heart racing. Pip is my friend. She's brave and strong, and she deserves to be here. Mr. Thompson sighed, his expression softening. I suppose I've been too hard on you kids. I didn't realize how much you cared about those birds. I just wanted some peace and quiet. Lily felt a flicker of hope. Maybe you could come and see them sometime. They're really special. Mr. Thompson hesitated, then nodded slowly. All right, I'll come by tomorrow to take a look. But I still expect you to keep that mess cleaned up. Of course, Lily replied, her heart soaring. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. As he walked away, Max turned to Lily, his eyes wide with excitement. Do you think he'll really come back? I think he will, Lily said, her voice filled with optimism. He just needs to see how wonderful Pip and her babies are. That night, as they settled into bed, Lily couldn't shake the feeling of joy that filled her heart. They had faced danger, fought for what they believed in, and now they were on the brink of something new. The bond between her and Pip had grown stronger, and she felt a sense of purpose that she had never experienced before. The next morning, Lily woke up early, her heart racing with anticipation. She rushed to the window, peering out at the garden. Pip was perched on the edge of the nest, her chicks chirping eagerly around her. The sight filled Lily with warmth and happiness. After breakfast, Lily and Max hurried outside, eager to prepare for Mr. Thompson's visit. They cleaned up the garden, making sure everything looked perfect. Lily even picked a fresh bouquet of flowers to present to him, hoping to show him how much they appreciated his willingness to come by. When Mr. Thompson arrived, he looked a bit hesitant but curious. All right, show me this nest of yours, he said, his tone gruff but not unkind. Lily led him to the tree, her heart pounding with excitement. Here it is, she said, pointing to the nest. Pip and her babies are right here. Mr. Thompson stepped closer, peering into the nest. For a moment, there was silence as he took in the sight of the fluffy chicks. Their tiny bodies nestled together. Well, he muttered, his expression softening. They're cute. Lily beamed with pride. Aren't they? Pip has worked so hard to take care of them. Mr. Thompson nodded, his demeanor shifting. I didn't realize how much effort goes into raising a family like this. I suppose I've been too quick to judge. Lily felt a surge of hope. It's okay, Mr. Thompson. We all make mistakes. But now that you see how special they are, maybe you can help us protect them. He looked thoughtful for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right, I'll do my part. Just keep that mess out of my yard, and I'll leave you and your birds alone. Thank you, Lily exclaimed, her heart soaring. You won't regret it. As Mr. Thompson walked away, Lily felt a sense of triumph. They had not only protected Pip and her babies but had also opened a door to understanding and compassion. Over the next few weeks, the garden became a place of joy and laughter. Mr. Thompson began to visit more often, sometimes bringing treats for the kids or sharing stories about his own childhood. He even helped Lily and Max with their garden chores, and in return, they taught him about the birds and the importance of nature. One sunny afternoon, as they sat together in the garden, Mr. Thompson pointed to the sky. "Look at that," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "I never noticed how beautiful the birds are when they fly." Lily smiled, her heart swelling with happiness. "They're amazing, aren't they? Pip and her babies have brought us all together." As the weeks turned into months, the chicks grew stronger and more independent. They began to venture out of the nest, flapping their wings and exploring the garden under Pip's watchful eye. Lily watched with pride as they took their first flights, soaring through the air with newfound confidence. One day, as Lily sat on the swing, she noticed Pip perched on a branch, watching her chicks as they practiced flying. The little birds were gaining confidence, and Lily felt a bittersweet pang in her heart. She knew that soon, they would be ready to leave the nest for good. That evening, as the sun set and the sky turned a brilliant shade of purple, Lily gathered her family and Mr. Thompson in the garden. "I want to thank you all for helping me protect Pip and her babies," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You've all become part of this journey, and I'm so grateful." Mr. Thompson smiled, his eyes twinkling. "You've taught me a lot about compassion, Lily. I never thought I'd care about a bunch of birds, but here we are." As they shared stories and laughter, Lily felt a sense of belonging that she had longed for since her grandmother's passing. The garden had transformed into a sanctuary of love and friendship, a place where they could all come together to celebrate life. But as the days passed, the inevitable approached. One morning, Lily woke up to find the nest empty. Her heart sank as she rushed outside, her eyes scanning the branches of the tree. Pip was perched nearby, but the chicks were nowhere to be seen. "Pip, where are your babies?" Lily called out, her voice filled with worry. Pip chirped softly, fluttering her wings as if to reassure Lily. Then, to her amazement, she spotted the chicks perched on a nearby fence, their tiny bodies wobbling as they practiced their balance. "They're flying!" Lily exclaimed, her heart swelling with pride. "They're finally ready." As she watched the little birds take their first flights, Lily felt a mix of joy and sadness. Pip had raised her family, and now they were ready to spread their wings and explore the world. As the sun rose on a new day, the garden buzzed with life. Lily stood at the edge of the yard, her heart swelling with pride as she watched Pip and her chicks flit around, their tiny wings beating against the morning air. The little birds were no longer just chicks, they were young sparrows, full of energy and curiosity, ready to embrace the world beyond the safety of their nest. Lily felt a bittersweet ache in her heart. She had grown so attached to Pip and her family, and the thought of them leaving filled her with both joy and sadness. But she knew this was a natural part of life, just as she had learned to navigate her own grief and find joy again. Pip's chicks were learning to spread their wings and find their place in the world. "Look at them go!" Max shouted, his eyes wide with excitement. He pointed to one of the chicks, which had just taken its first flight, wobbling slightly before landing on a nearby branch. "They're so brave." "They really are," Lily replied, her voice filled with admiration. "Pip has done an amazing job raising them." As the day wore on, the garden became a playground for the young sparrows. They chirped and fluttered, exploring every inch of their surroundings. Pip watched over them, her eyes sharp and vigilant, ready to swoop in if danger approached. Lily felt a sense of peace knowing that Pip was still there, guiding her chicks even as they ventured out into the world. Later that afternoon, Mr. Thompson stopped by, a curious expression on his face. "I heard the little ones are flying now," he said, leaning against the fence. "Is it true?" Lily nodded, her heart swelling with pride. "They are. "They're so brave, Mr. Thompson. You should see them." He stepped closer, peering into the garden. "I'd like to see that," he said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "I never thought I'd say this, but I've grown fond of those little birds." Lily beamed at him. "They've brought us all together, haven't they? You, me, and Max. And even Pip has changed how we see things." Mr. Thompson nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You're right. I've learned a lot from you kids. I used to think of birds as a nuisance, but now I see them as part of the beauty of nature." As they stood together, watching the chicks take flight, Lily felt a sense of community blossom in the garden. The bond between her, Max, Mr. Thompson, and Pip had grown stronger through their shared experiences. They had faced challenges together, learned from one another, and discovered the importance of compassion and understanding. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the garden, Lily felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had not only saved Pip and her family but had also found healing in her own heart. The garden, once a place of sorrow, had transformed into a sanctuary of hope and friendship. "Do you think they'll come back?" Max asked, his voice filled with wonder as he watched the chicks soar higher into the sky. "I hope so," Lily replied, her eyes sparkling with optimism. "But even if they don't, we'll always have this moment. We've shared something special together." Just then, Pip landed on the swing beside Lily, chirping softly as if to say goodbye. Lily reached out, gently stroking the little bird's feathers. "You've been so brave, Pip. Thank you for letting us be a part of your journey." Pip chirped again, and in that moment, Lily felt a deep connection to the little bird. It was a bond that transcended words. A reminder of the extraordinary relationships that exist between humans and animals. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, the garden was filled with a sense of magic. The air was alive with the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves. A symphony of life that echoed the beauty of nature. Lily turned to Max and Mr. Thompson, her heart full. "Let's make sure we keep this garden a safe haven for all the birds. We can plant more flowers and create a space where they can thrive." Mr. Thompson nodded, a newfound enthusiasm in his voice. "I'd like that. I'll help you with the planting. Maybe we can even build some birdhouses." Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That would be amazing. We can create a whole community for them." As they began to discuss their plans, Lily felt a sense of hope and wonder fill her heart. The bond she had formed with Pip, her family, and even Mr. Thompson had transformed her life in ways she never expected. In the days that followed, the garden flourished. They planted flowers, built birdhouses, and created a sanctuary for all the creatures that called it home. Pip and her chicks became a symbol of resilience and bravery. A reminder that even in the face of adversity, love and compassion could prevail. And as the seasons changed, Lily knew that no matter where Pip and her family flew, they would always carry a piece of her heart with them. The extraordinary bond they had formed would remain, a testament to the power of friendship and the beauty of nature. As she sat in the garden, surrounded by the vibrant colors of blooming flowers and the joyful sounds of chirping birds, Lily felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had learned that life was a journey filled with challenges and triumphs, and that the connections we make along the way are what truly matter. With a smile on her face and hope in her heart, Lily looked up at the sky, watching as Pip soared high above, free and unburdened. "Fly high, Pip," she whispered, her voice filled with love. "We'll always be here for you." And in that moment, she knew that the extraordinary relationships between humans and animals could change lives, heal hearts, and create a world filled with wonder and joy. This story of Lily, Pip, and the unexpected bonds formed in a garden reflects the themes of bravery, companionship, and the transformative power of love. It showcases how even the smallest creatures can teach us profound lessons about life, resilience, and the importance of protecting those we care about. Thanks for joining us on this journey with our furry champions. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story, don't forget to subscribe to Furry Champions. Hit that like button and share with friends to spread the love for our furry friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, celebrate the amazing bond between humans and animals. See you in the next video.